हेलो बच्चों, कैसे हैं आप सभी। आई होप न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ रहे हैं अच्छे से और कल का आर्टिकल्स आपने अच्छे से कवर किया। क्वेश्चन जो मैंने दिए थे उनको आपने अटेम्प्ट किया एंड आई होप यू वर एबल टू अटेम्प्ट द क्वेश्चन आफ्टर हैविंग read the articles. So I welcome you all to daily newspaper analysis at Tathastu-ICS presented by me, Ruchi Singh. So let me take the first article of the day, and that is on page number 6. Give Kerala one-time package to tide over financial crisis, Supreme Court tells Centre. Before we take this article, let me remind you one thing, that we have done this particular issue, this particular topic in very much detailed manner when this article surfaced in the paper the very first time in very much detail on 5th of February, 5th or 7th of February last month, and we did deal it in detail, like what was the Kerala's concern and what was the counter claim made by the centre and what were the legal provisions regarding all this issue which is going on, and what was the implication on the national level and what was the implication on the state, that is Kerala. And then we concluded with the entire issue, and we did practice a question also. I will suggest you to, let me give you exact date, 7th February. So if you go to DNA of 7th February, I have dealt this issue in very much detailed manner, and we did deal this issue with a question also. So we will not take the article again in repeated manner, but I'll tell you extra information which is required related to this article. So I'll suggest you to go back to previous DNA of 7th February and watch it and cover the article in detail there, and then you will be able to connect much better with what I am going to tell further. But it doesn't mean that if you haven't covered that, you cannot connect with today's extra content which I will be giving related to this article. Okay? I'll be discussing about FRBM Act 2003. So let's just have a glimpse of the article, what it says. So just 2-3 lines you need to read. And by the way, this topic is related to GS paper 3, fiscal management by the states. All right, and then read this line, and this is very much repeated. That is why I say, when you read newspaper daily and consistently, your efforts day by day, time given to newspaper day by day decreases. And as the other, you might be hearing, I can complete newspaper in 45 minutes, I can complete newspaper in 35 minutes. Yes, it is very much possible if you read the newspaper consistently, because one article repeatedly comes in newspaper. You don't have to read it all the time, you can skip also. So this article could be skipped, but this is my responsibility to highlight few of the points so that you can connect with whatever I am going to give you extra related to this article. So read this line, Kerala's complaint. What is the Kerala's complaint? What is the context? Kerala had moved the Supreme Court in an original suit accusing the union government of violating the federal structure of the governance and causing severe damage to the economy of a small state with meager resources. And what centre replied to this? The centre had hit back by accusing, and again I'm telling, we have already covered this article on 7th of February in very much detail. Just repetition this is. The centre had hit back by accusing Kerala of being one of the most financially unhealthy states. A note submitted by Attorney General in court had said that fiscal edifice of Kerala has been diagnosed with several cracks. So the situation of the fiscal situation of the state is very weak, and it has several cracks in it, and because of various fiscal mismanagement, as centre accuses the Kerala state. And then why it says that poor financial indicator of Kerala points to a lack of proper management of its public finances. So this was said by Kerala, and in counter claim this was the stance of centre. Now we need to know that, is there any legal provision, is there any act which shapes or which underlines or which states how the fiscal management should be done by the centre or the state? Is there any act? Yes, there is an act which we need to cover today, and that is FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management, Fiscal Reduction and Management Act, FRBM Act 2003. So let's understand FRBM Act, Fiscal Reduction and Management Act 2003. What is its objective? Its objective is to ensure fiscal discipline, transparency and accountability in governance spending. So this is the objective of Fiscal Reduction and Management Act 2003. Now, fiscal deficit targets. What is the fiscal deficit target which has been underlined in this act? Mandates the government to reduce its fiscal deficit to a specified target over a period of time. Fiscal deficit target aims to be below 4.5% by 2025-2026. Please read this carefully because question has already come in prelims, and I will be showing you one of the questions as well through which you can practice this particular topic. Then further is elimination of revenue deficit. These are the basics of FRBM. So requires the government to eliminate the revenue deficit, which is the excess of government's total expenditure over total deficit revenue. What is revenue deficit? Revenue deficit is the revenue which is collected minus expenditure. If expenditure is more than the revenue collected, it leads to the situation called as revenue deficit. So medium term fiscal strategy under FRBM Act 2003, what is that? Mandates the government to formulate and implement a medium term fiscal strategy outlining plans for reducing fiscal deficit over 3 years. Next, annual fiscal reports. Requires the government to present an annual fiscal responsibility statement to Parliament detailing progress in achieving fiscal consolidation targets. And then last is penalty for non-compliance. What is the penalty for that? Imposes penalties on the government for non-compliance, including fines and disqualification of elected members from holding public office. So now you need to know whether FRBM 2003 applies to center or the states or both or just one center. So FRBM 2003, this act applies to only centers, but some of the states have come up with their own FRBM acts. All right, and so the next question is, does Kerala have its own FRBM? That is the next point which you need to know. So let's read about that. Now, legal response, the issue, the crack which is going on between center and the state, between the center and the Kerala state about for that issue, what is is there any legal responses? So the answer is this: court proceedings. Attorney General's submission to the Supreme Court forms part of legal battle initiated by Kerala against the centre's alleged interference in the state finances. Protection of federalism is required. In this issue, there is a question of federalism and especially fiscal federalism. So Kerala seeks judicial intervention to safeguard the federal structure, emphasizing the state's authority over budgetary management and borrowing decisions. Now comes FRBM. FRBM comes as a rescue. What it says, while FRBM Act of 2023 primarily applies to the central government, some states have enacted their own FRBM legislation to maintain fiscal discipline at the state level. Kerala does not have its own version yet. So this is the point which you need to remember. All right. Now let's see any question about FRBM. Look at the question which I have shown here. Consider the following statement about the FRBM Act of 2003. It mandates the government, question the first line, it mandates the government to ensure intergenerational equity, long-term macroeconomic stability and effective debt management. Second statement, it mandates the government to reduce fiscal deficit by 0.3% of GDP every year and revenue deficit by 0.5% GDP every year. So third point is, this act implies only to the central government. The central government shall not borrow from RBI except by other ways and means advances. Identify the correct statement or statements. So all of the statements are correct regarding FRBM Act of 2003. All right. So the answer for this question is D, that is 1, 2, 3, 4. All of the statements are correct about FRBM 2003. Now, if I tell you that there can be probability of this topic being asked in mains also. So what kind of question UPSC can ask? Look at the screen. The question is, what is FRBM Act? What provisions does it contain regarding fiscal consolidation? 250 words. If I tell you to attempt this question in 250 words, how the approach should be? So try to read FRBM Act 2003 and read also about 2023, and then you can give example of recent Kerala and the central government's issue which is going on right now. So what should be the approach? In introduction, you can briefly write about FRBM Act, and then you can also mention whether it applies to center or the state, or what is the situation that you can mention the center, it applies to center, but different states have brought up its own versions. Kerala does not have its own version yet. And then in the main body, you can write important, which are the important for fiscal, mention the provisions of FRBM Act, which is important for the fiscal consolidation. You can define fiscal consolidation as well in brief in the in your main body, and then you can write an holistic and appropriate conclusion. So this way you can deal with this topic. And the next article, that is not an article per se, there is a picture, and you can look at the picture. This picture is not of something nice, something beautiful. This is not something, to go and have a beautiful thing around. This picture is of uncontrolled growth of water hyacinth. So we need to know about water hyacinth a little bit in in detail, not much, but I want to tell you about this because UPSC can ask question on this. So what is water hyacinth? Water hyacinth, scientifically name is Eichhornia crassipes mart, as pronounced as you want to, is an aquatic weed. So it's an aquatic weed, all right. This is an aquatic weed common in water bodies across South Asia, including India. So these are the key terms. And then next is, this is not an indigenous species, but was introduced to India during British colonial rule. So they brought this water hyacinth as a plant to increase beauty around. So rule as an ornamental aquatic plant. So it was for ornamentation aquatic plant from South America. It was brought from South America. That is why it is not indigenous. The plant produces beautiful purple flowers that have high aesthetic value. So this plant was brought during the British era from South America for ornamentation purposes. But then what happened? The problem with this is a floating aquatic plant. Unfortunately, is also obnoxious weed. So this is a weed, and this is not good for water bodies. That has been suffocating. It suffocates surface fresh water, raw sources like rivers, rivulets, streams, ponds, dams, lakes, and bogs, making the water bodies unsuitable for common commercial fishery, because the sun rays cannot penetrate to the water body down below because of the increased growth of the water hyacinth on the water body. That is why the sun rays penetration is not there, and it suffocates the living organism in the water. That is what this line means. And it also impacts transportation, because the increased mushrooming up of this plant towards the movement of the water body, any ship or anything, and recreation, etc. The plant is prolific vegetable matter producer and has the ability to choke out any closed water body at an astonishing rate. This cuts off sunlight as well as reduces oxygen level. Next, the plant, and this is important for your environmental ecology, and questions are very probable from this area. The plant, and now you can see some of the uses of the plant. It can be used as a biofertilizer. It can be used as a biofertilizer. It can be used to make some vessel also. For example, in West Bengal, some of the people started this commercial use of this plant, and they were making vessels and beautiful kind of a vessel which were used, and they were selling it. So I read it somewhere, but I cannot recall it exactly, but it can be used in making some useful vessels also. And biofertilizer, so this can be used as in some organic agriculture practices, but it is mostly a nuisance plant, detrimental to both ecosystem. Mostly it is nuisance, but some of the uses are there. And it also works as functions as phytoremediation species. What is phytoremediation species? The plant, the green plant, which can be used to remove the carbon dioxide, or say some of the pollutants from water bodies. They are called as phytoremedial plants. So water hyacinth can be used as a phytoremediation plant. See, so this term is important for you. In prelims, this can be asked. So what is phytoremediation? Is the process of removing, degrading, or containing pollutants from soil, sludges, sediments, water bodies, groundwater directly using living or green plants. So water hyacinth acts as a phytoremediation plant. Now look at a question. With reference to water hyacinth, consider the following statements. It is an indigenous species of aquatic weed. This statement is wrong. As we read in the content I showed you, it is not indigenous. So this is wrong. The plant has the ability to trap and remove toxic metabolites and harmful heavy metals from water. This is correct, because as we read, this plant works as a phytoremedial plant. Third statement, it is associated with depletion of dissolved oxygen in the water. This is correct. So what will be the answer? 2 and 3 is the correct answer. Statement 1 is wrong. For the question, the right answer is B, that is 2 and 3. Alright. So with this question, the second article gets completed. The third article that is to be read from today's newspaper. Look, I have skipped editorial page because there are 2-3 articles and they are not much of significance. One article was there regarding urbanization. You can just have a glance at it, but you won't get much further from that. It is about a recent trend of urbanization and what is the benefit of urbanization, how urbanization trend should be, what all should be taken care of while a place or area should be urbanized. And it has mentioned the new parliament building, it has mentioned the Ayodhya Ram temple and the infrastructural initiative which is being taken around these things, and what are the benefits, or what are the, and some of the question has been raised about recent trend of urbanization, etc. You can just have a glance. There is not much to be taken from. That is why I have skipped that discussion from today's newspaper analysis. What I found very important is this article, the last and the very much important article for today's discussion is how is nuclear waste generated. So in this article there has been discussion of what is nuclear waste, how nuclear waste is generated, how nuclear waste is managed, alright, and how India is managing nuclear waste. So all these things have been mentioned, but what I wanted you to read further about this article is what is India's 3-stage nuclear program, alright, and what are the different fuels which are being used in first stage, second stage, third stage, etc. because India has recently entered into second stage, and I wanted to discuss why reaching the second stage took so long, and what is the feature of second stage nuclear program, what is the feature of first stage nuclear program. UPSC can ask you a question right about India's 3-stage nuclear program and what are the challenges and the benefits. So this kind of question can be asked. So let's read this line from the article. The first paragraph: recently India loaded the core of its long delayed prototype fast breeder reactor. So what is PFBR? Prototype fast breeder reactor vessel, bringing the country to cusp of stage 2, powered by uranium and plutonium. So what do you need to remember and think on the same line about other stages? That stage 2 is powered by uranium and plutonium of its 3-stage nuclear program. So India's nuclear program, which is of 3-stage. Now you should think what is first stage, what is second stage, what is third stage, and what is the nuclear fuel which is being used in these stages, what is the coolant in these first, second, third stage, etc., and what are the specific features of it, what is FBR, what is PFBR, etc., and all these things, what is the name of third stage nuclear program, all these things. So just read further about this. By stage 3, India hopes to be able to use its vast reserves of thorium to produce nuclear power and gain some energy independence. Next line, what is nuclear waste? So here for you a new term that you need to note down and remember. What is nuclear waste? In a fission reactor, what is fission, what is fusion? While you read your static part of the science and technology, read the difference between fusion and fission, which provides more energy, fission or fusion. So all these things you have to read from your static portion. Here just understand what is the meaning of nuclear waste. In a fission reactor, neutrons bombard the nuclei of atoms of certain elements. When one such nucleus absorbs a neutron. It destabilizes and breaks up, yielding some energy and nuclei of different elements. For example, when the uranium-235 nucleus absorbs a neutron, it can fission to barium-144, krypton-89 and 3 neutrons. So if you understand this, you can understand it like that. So when uranium 235 is bombarded, so it absorbs a neutron, is bombarded with neutron, then it says that it can fission to barium 144 and krypton 89 and 3 neutrons. Okay. So this is the meaning of this line, and 3 neutrons. If the debris is barium 144 and krypton 9 constitutes elements that can't undergo fission, they become nuclear waste. So this constitution, if they cannot go further to fission, if they cannot undergo fission, they become nuclear waste, and they need to be cared, they need to be managed. And how the nuclear waste is managed, the article has talked about that. You can simply read it. What I wanted you to explain and understand is, read this line also, how nuclear waste is handled. It is so there are various types of nuclear waste: hot, solid, liquid. So this further the article has just simply mentioned that how these nuclear waste of various kinds is to be managed. What I wanted you to look at in detail and understand for exam point of view is this one. India's nuclear program, 3-stage nuclear program. So what is the context? Recently on 3rd, I think on 4th March, there was a news that recently Indian Prime Minister witnessed the start of process of core loading the indigenous prototype fast breeder reactor PFBR at the Madras Atomic Power Station in Kalpakkam, Tamil Nadu. This is a historic milestone marking entry into vital second stage of India's 3-stage nuclear program. So India has 3-stage nuclear program, and now India's entry is there in second stage of India's 3 nuclear program. What is India's 3-stage nuclear program? India's 3-stage nuclear program was formulated by who? Physicist Homi Bhabha in 1950. So this is historical background. What was the objective? To achieve country's long-term energy security, independence and sustainable development. So one question is about significance of India's 3-stage nuclear program. You can mention it was started for the objective of energy security, independence and sustainable development through the use of uranium and vast thorium reserves. So what will be a fuel used? Uranium and vast thorium reserves. India has vast thorium reserve which is yet untapped. So third stage, especially third stage, is included in India's 3-stage nuclear program to use the vast resources of India's thorium reserves. All right. And then what is 3-stage nuclear program? The first is in the first one, which is called as pressurized heavy water reactors. In this, natural uranium as a fuel is used. In second, which is called as FBRs, fast breeder reactors, plutonium based fuel is used. Third one, advanced nuclear power system. In this, thorium as a fuel is used. All right. Thorium is particularly attractive for India as India has only around 1 to 2% of global uranium reserves. So India's uranium reserves is very low. That is why we will run out of this fuel, and India has thorium. So India's 3rd-stage nuclear program is very much significant for us because it is based on thorium as a fuel, and we have abundance of thorium in the country, and we are short of uranium fuel, and that is why we need to focus on 3rd stage. However, thorium is more difficult to use, but what is the challenge of thorium to be used as a fuel? It is more difficult to be used than uranium as a fuel because it requires breeding, and global uranium prices remain low enough that breeding is not cost effective. Thorium जो है as a fuel, if you want to use it, it needs breeding, and for breeding we need uranium, and uranium reserve is already low. That is why breeding is very much costly for India, and that is why there is a difficulty of thorium being used as a fuel. The Department of Atomic Energy DA is carrying out indigenous R&D activities for development of advanced nuclear power system in line with the 3-stage nuclear power program. This 3 stages are expected to allow the country complete self-sufficiency in nuclear energy. So, fourth objective of India's 3-stage nuclear program is self-sufficiency in energy security, in nuclear energy. Then next, understand what is 3-stage of India's nuclear program. In the first, India used PSWRs and natural uranium-238, which contains minuscule amounts of U-35 as the fissile material. Before we read, look at this picture. Stage 1, Stage 2, Stage 3. Stage 1 PSWR, Stage 3 FBR, and Stage 2 is FBR, and Stage 3 is breeder reactor. So this is how the entire 3-stage program of India, 3-stage nuclear program of India looks like. Alright, now let's read this picture. Let's give verbal understanding to this picture. The second line, the heavy water in PSWR, water molecules containing the deuterium isotope of hydrogen slows neutron released by one fission reaction. The heavy water is pressurized to prevent it from boiling. The reactions produce plutonium-239, Pu-239 and energy. Only U-35, not U-38 can sustain a chain reaction. So note this point that U-35, not U-38 sustains a chain reaction, but it is consumed fully in stage 1. In stage 2, what happens? India will use Pu, plutonium-239 together with U-38. So what is the fuel for first? And that is U-35, and heavy water is also used in first one. The reaction produce plutonium. So in the first stage, the plutonium-239 is produced, and in the second stage, India uses plutonium-239 together with U-38 as a fuel in the PFBR to produce energy U-33 and more Pu-39. So more plutonium-239 energy along with U-33 is produced in second stage. Now, the DA is set up a special purpose vehicle in 2003 called Bharatiya Navikiya Vidyut Nigam Limited, Bhavini. So, mark this point, Bhavini. This is a special purpose vehicle to implement stage 2. So, question can be given with this statement that what Bhavini, they can give one line about Bhavini, or they can give a statement in for something. They can ask about stage 2 of nuclear program, and they might give Bhavini as a statement, and you have to find out what is Bhavini. This is special purpose vehicle. Alright, what happens in stage 3 now? Plutonium-239 will be combined with thorium-232 in reactors to produce energy and U-33. So what will be the byproduct outcome of stage 3 program? Plutonium-239 will be used as a fuel, and it will be combined with thorium-232. What it will produce? It will produce U-33 and energy. So this will be about third stage. Alright, and this is the picture. Now, it is important that we understand in detail stage 3 of India's nuclear program, because we have entered into stage 2 of India's 3-stage nuclear program. So how it works? There is a breeder reactor. Okay? In stage 2 is a nuclear reactor that produces more fissile material than it consumes. So in breeder reactor, whatever fissile material you put into, the outcome, what it produces is more than what it consumes. So breeder reactor means what it consumes as a fuel, it gives off more of that. That is what is referred as breeder reactor. Now, what is fast breeder reactor? Fast breeder reactor means neutrons are not allowed to slow down. So once it starts, it goes on a chain reaction. That is why it is fast. So what is breeder reactor? We understood. Now what is fast breeder reactor? We understood. The next line which you need to understand is PSWRs use natural or low enriched U-38 as the fissile material. So what is the fissile material in second stage? U-38, and produce plutonium-239 as a byproduct. So uses is of low enriched U-38. What is the byproduct? Plutonium-239. We already saw that. This plutonium-239 is combined with more U-38, uranium-238 into mixed oxide and loaded into core of a new reactor together with a blanket. This is the material with which the core's fission products react to make more plutonium-239. Now, it uses liquid sodium. So you have to understand what fissile material it uses. What is the meaning of breeder reactor? What is meaning of fast breeder reactor? What is the fissile material? What is the byproduct? Alright, the next thing which you need to note down is it uses liquid sodium, a highly reactive substance, as a coolant in 2 circuits. So what is the coolant in second stage of 3-stage nuclear program, which cools down the chain reaction, वरना पूरा system overheat हो जाएगा. That is why coolant is used. What is the coolant? Liquid sodium. Coolant is the first circuit enters the reactor and leaves with energy and radioactivity. Alright, use of thorium-232, which is itself not a fissile material, as a blanket is also envisaged in this stage. By transmutation, thorium will create fissile uranium-233, which will be used as a fuel in the third stage. Alright, so the last line, FBR is thus a stepping stone for the third stage of program, paving the way for the eventual full utilization of India's abundant thorium reserves. So this is about FBR and the second stage. Look at a question. India's 3-stage nuclear program. Discuss India's 3-stage nuclear program. What are the various challenges in 3-stage nuclear program? So we have already seen India's 3-stage nuclear program. What was the meaning? What is the coolant? What is the fissile material which was used? What was the byproduct of each stage? Alright, and then what are the challenges? That also you need to understand the challenges of India's 3 nuclear stage program, and also try to read about why second stage, entry into second stage took us so long. Alright, and then overall what is the challenges which India is facing for the development of its 3-stage nuclear program. If I give you this question, how will be the approach, what will be the approach, how you will attempt? In introduction, write a contextual introduction. You can write that India has recently entered into second stage of nuclear program, and then you can write about all the 3 stages, first, second, third, what we discussed above, and then in the main body itself you have to write the challenges, overall challenges, and then in conclusion a way forward. We have not discussed challenges. Let's look at the challenges in brief as well. What are the challenges of India's 3-stage nuclear program? Foremost challenge of nuclear technology, safety and waste management. The first. Second is availability of fissile material. As we said that uranium is not abundantly available, though we have thorium, but breeding of thorium is very challenging because of the cost involved. And then third is land acquisition and selection of location of nuclear power plants. This is also a challenge. Fourth, as India is not a signatory of NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, and Nuclear Supplier Group, nuclear supply is severely contained by sanctions against India. This situation has changed after 2009 waiver and bilateral civil nuclear energy agreements with many countries. And what is the fifth challenge? Reprocessing and enrichment capacity also required boost in India. So these are the challenges. If this question needs a conclusion and you have to conclude, how you can conclude, I have given you one of the ways to conclude. You can think of your conclusion, how you will conclude. So in conclusion, you can approach like this. To ensure the safety and security of using nuclear power, there is a need to ensure maintenance of skills base, continued effective safety regulation, fostering progress on facilities for waste disposal. And the article which came today in the Hindu is about waste management, nuclear waste management. And management must be given serious consideration. It is also important to maintain and reinforce international non-proliferation arrangements. So in conclusion, we have written a little bit about India's 3-stage program and about nuclear waste management and about international proliferation arrangements, etc. So this is all about the third article, that is nuclear waste, India's 3-stage nuclear program, etc. And this is it about the Hindu newspaper of today. You could complete the Hindu newspaper today in not more than 40-45 minutes. Alright, so this should be the approach. That is how you should approach reading newspaper. This is it for today. Keep reading. I'll see you tomorrow. All the best.